Good morning, friends. Good morning. Let me open this up over here on this side. Good to have you with me this morning. Good to be with you. It is good for us to be together. For as Jesus said, where two or more are gathered together in my name, I will be with them. So we are gathered together in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, and with the power of the Holy Spirit. And so we are more than just us. We are more than just us. Wonderful. By the way, I'm Brian. I'm the pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church, PB. Hence the title of our program, PB Reads the Bible. And this is day 17. I forgot to change the title. Today is day 17 on our journey through the book of Judges. I'm going to pop in here and change that. We'll change it for YouTube. I'll have to go in later and change it myself here on Facebook. And yeah, it's going to mess things up here, isn't it? Of course it is. If I don't do it now, I'll forget to do it completely. Da, da, da. Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks. It's it'll just be a moment, one more minute, and I'll be good. I promise. There we go. Now I can shut that off and just be back to you. Sorry. That wasn't a failure, though. That was a gift. And we learn and we grow. We grow from our mistakes. Anyway, friends, thanks for joining me this morning. Episode 17 on our journey through the book of Judges. Today we're actually going to do two chapters. We're going to do chapters 17 and 18 together because they flow together. They're part of a story. They complete the story. And it's kind of hard to talk about the points of the story if we only read half of the story. So today we're going to read 17 and 18 together. Now, for tomorrow I'm actually thinking, because it's a similar situation, chapters 19, 20, and 21 make a complete unit. And chapter 18 or chapter 19 isn't all that long. Chapter 20, 21, maybe a little bit long, but I think we're going to do all of them together tomorrow. So come tomorrow expecting it to be a long one, and you might be surprised if it's a short one. Okay. But so for today, definitely we're doing 17 and 18. Good morning, Pat. You're always good. You're so sweet. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Marcia. Good morning, class. So an announcement. We sent out an email yesterday from the office here to those we had, in our email blast. And I also did post here on Facebook that on Saturday at Main Street Park, we're having an in-person prayer vigil at 6 o'clock in the evening on Main Street Park for Ukraine. But for the 24 hours leading up to that, we're doing a virtual prayer vigil. You can do it from wherever you're at. All you have to do is sign up and claim an hour to be in prayer over Ukraine and everything involved there. So you can, when we're done here, you can scroll down a little bit and the doodle poll is right there. You could just click on the link and go on in and see what times are available. There actually are 24 slots, actually 23. For some reason, Doodle put 2 and 3 a.m. together to a 2-hour time window. And I'm actually allowing 2 people to sign up for any hour. So you still got quite a few options there. You still have quite a few options there. And I think I put Saturday afternoon as the deadline to sign up, since later Saturday afternoon is when we start. All right, so pick an hour and be in prayer. And like I said, you can do that one from anywhere. You do your hour from wherever you're at. You can do it from home, from work, from sitting in a park somewhere or the coffee shop, wherever you feel most comfortable to be in prayer for your hour. All right, so we're going to look at chapters 17 and 18. Like I said, they make a story, complete story. The book is still Judges, but the time of the judges has ended. There are no more judges. There are no more judges. Oh, good idea to get the story together. Well, thank you, Marilyn. Yeah, it's going to work better, especially for today, and again, probably for tomorrow as well. Good morning, John and Cindy. Good to have you both with us live today. So again, the time of the judges, the actual judges are done. Samson was the last one, and we saw the trajectory, the downward trajectory of the judges in both efficacy and also in faithfulness. And we could also see the downward trajectory of Israel reflected by the judges, from being united and willing to come to the aid of each tribe, to no longer being concerned about anybody else other than themselves as an individual or their own tribe, their own little sphere, and keeping things copacetic, not trying to overturn the fruit basket, and being willing to accept foreign invaders as their rulers. Okay, so we're going to notice some differences now. First of all, that cycle that has been progressing through most of the stories so far, anyway, where things are good, but people turn away from God, and then foreign invaders come in. They reach this low point, call out to God. God sends a deliverer, and everything gets better for a while, and but it never quite gets back as high as it was before. Each time it comes up, it's a little bit lower. And each time it goes down, we might say that things go a little bit lower, especially with how Israel acts. So these last two sections, chapters 17 and 18, describe further the total religious chaos of Israel, and describe it with relation to one tribe, but they're reflective of Israel as a whole. We will, and then in the other sections, 19, 20, 21, we see the total chaos again, and complete falling apart of the social structure of Israel. In both cases, it's moral decay. 17 and 18 have more to do with religious moral decay and relationship with God. 19, 20, and 21 have more to do with the moral decay and relationship with other human beings. In general, but there are overlaps, of course, but those are the general points to these two. So if we remember back to the beginning of the book, and if you don't remember, you can always turn back to it or rewatch the videos. There were two openings to the book. We had the two different openings, and we did have to adjust the verse numbers because the people who split the Bible into chapters and verses got it wrong. But there were the two openings. One dealt more with the religious decay and or the condition of people, and the other one dealt more with the social condition of people. So we see here a similar thing at the end. It's bookending the book. We have the two sections doing the same, the two endings doing the same thing as the two introductions did. Okay, that's enough talk about it, enough preamble, so to speak, and let's jump into it. Okay, looking at chapter 17. We're going to do 17 and 18, but we're going to do 17 first, obviously. There was a man in the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah. Micah means who else but God, or something like that. Like, who else but God? How can there be another God besides God? Kind of is the name. All right, and that's important. That's important. He said to his mother, the 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which you uttered a curse, and even spoke it in my hearing, that silver is in my possession. I took it, but now I will return it to you. And his mother said, may my son be blessed by Yahweh. Then he returned the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother, and his mother said, I consecrate the silver to Yahweh from my hand for my son, to make an idol of cast metal. So when he returned the money to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave it to the silversmith, who made it into an idol of cast metal, and it was in the house of Micah. This man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and teraphim, and installed one of his sons, who became his priest. In those days, there was no king in Israel. All the people did what was right in their own eyes. Pause. Okay. So we got this guy, Micah. Who else but God? Who else but God? Which sounds like a very faithful name. Is it a good descriptor of the person? And we're going to find out. No. His mother had 1,100 pieces of silver, same number that Delilah got from the people for betraying Samson in our last story. And she spoke a curse. He says, we're told that he heard her speak a curse on whoever tries to steal my money. Let them be cursed by God. But he stole it anyway. So there, right off the bat, we're seeing a lack of belief or faith that almost like, well, there's no God. God's not going to do that or whatever. So we're seeing that lack of faith in spite of his name. He does come clean and confesses, I'm the one that took your silver. And she pronounces, though, a blessing. May he be blessed by Yahweh. So we're seeing reversals. Curses become blessings, and blessings become curses. And she promises, she says, I'm going to dedicate this silver to Yahweh. Well, now, when that term is used throughout the Hebrew Bible, all the times in Exodus and Joshua and stuff like that, things are dedicated to the Lord, to Yahweh. You can't use them. You can't use them. They can only be used for God or by God. Some things are just completely burned and destroyed and dedicated to God. Others are put aside and put into the temple treasury to be used for God. She says that I'm going to dedicate it to God. But what does she turn? But she doesn't. In fact, she takes some of it. She says, I'm going to give it all to God. She only takes 200 of it, 200 pieces of silver. But she doesn't give it to God. She doesn't give it to the temple treasury. She gives it to a silversmith. To do what? To make an idol. To make an idol. So she's not following through on her vow, her promise of dedicating it all to God. She only gives a portion of her offering that she promised. And she's using it to make an idol rather than using it for God's worship, right? So we're seeing all these things. Things are not good. Things are not good. This is one person or this one family, but it's a reflection of Israel. It's a reflection of Israel. And then he takes, we're not told it's any of her money, but he takes other stuff, and he makes an ephod and a teraphim, and he has a shrine in his house. So rather than, who else but God, he's trying to put God under his control. He's trying to trap God and put God under his control. He's thinking that by having his shrine, by having this ephod and teraphim, which were used to communicate, to be oracles for God, and this cast idol, that he thinks he's going to be able to control God and get what he wants from God. And he installs one of his own kids as a priest. Rather than, you're not supposed to have your own priest. Priests are supposed to be working for and we don't have a temple yet, but in the tabernacle and other duties but he's seeking his own priest. He's seeking his own priest. And the tabernacle is in Shiloh. The tabernacle is in Shiloh. It's a distance away. That's supposed to be the only place where you're supposed to do stuff and have those offerings and whatnot. But verse 6, in those days there was no king in Israel. So from that we can obviously tell that the author of this particular story, because this last section, most of Judges, probably comes from multiple authors, especially this last section. These are different stories that came from different times, possibly even from different time periods, and then somebody collected them and formed them into this wonderful whole book. But especially these last couple stories, they did a wonderful job of merging a couple stories together and creating this. So the editor did a wonderful job. But these are key words. Oh, I'm sorry. So we know that the story dates from a later time period after the kings were already in place. This happened because there was no king. There was nobody in charge. We could change that too to say there was no judge. There was no judge. In those days, there was no king in Israel. All the people did what was right in their own eyes. I'm going to ask you to think back just a few days to when Samson saw the woman he wanted to marry, the Philistine woman that he wanted to marry, and it's usually translated because she pleases me, but literally it means she is right in my eyes. She is right in my eyes. We probably should have that literal translation because that connects here so well. Because in that case, Samson was reflecting and being a metaphor for Israel, because Israel does whatever they want, whatever is right in their own eyes. They don't seem to care about the covenant with God and the duties that they are called to uphold. I have my water today. So, change of scene. Now there was a young man in Bethlehem in Judah, of the clan of Judah. And remember, Judah is one of the good towns, like it was originally anyway, one of the prime tribes, and lifted up and held up. But we saw how far they had fallen. So there's a young man and this guy is living in Bethlehem, which is in Judah, of the clan of Judah. He was a Levite residing there. And what's a Levite? A Levite, and since he's coming from Bethlehem, would be a descendant of Aaron, part of the Aaronic priesthood, part of the Aaronic priesthood. So he's a priest. He's a priest. And he's living in Bethlehem, which right off the bat, it sounds weird. Why is he there? This man left the town of Bethlehem in Judah to live wherever he could find a place. Pause again. I know I only did like a half a verse or a verse there. So he seems to be directionless. He is without a guide. And again, we might say a metaphor for Israel, who seems to be just wandering, doing whatever they want to. And he's doing the same thing. He's not actually living up to his title as priest and doing the things that he's supposed to be doing. He wants to do what he wants to do, and he's just going to kind of wander around. He's a wanderer. He came to the house of Micah in the hill country of Ephraim to carry on his work, which is weird because it says he doesn't have any work. Oof, man. It also could be continue on his journey. That makes a lot more sense. Micah said to him, "From where do you come?" He replied, "I am a Levite of Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to live wherever I can find a place." Then Micah said to him, "Stay with me, and be to me a father and a priest, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year, a set of clothes, and your living." Pause. how quickly Micah threw his son under the bus there and abandoned him, who was his priest, now that he has a Levite. Now, what's the Levite do? You would think he would say, "Oh no, it's not how it works. It's not how all this works. You want me to just be your own?" The Levite agreed to stay with him, the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. So Micah installed the Levite, and the young man became his priest and was in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, "Now I know that Yahweh will prosper me because the Levite has become my priest." Pause. End of chapter 17. So we can hear in Micah's words, in the undertones, perhaps slightly unstated, his purpose and intent. His thinking is, now I'm set. I've got the shrine, I've got the idol, I've got the ephod and the teraphim, and now I've got a real Levite priest. Definitely going to have God under my control. God will definitely bless me now. He thinks that he can control God because he has all that stuff. The icing on the cake being an actual Levite priest. Chapter 18, change of scene. Change of scene. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Scary words. Scary words. Because we remember just a few verses earlier, those words were there, and followed by, and the people of Israel did what was pleasing in their own eyes. So we know, even though it doesn't say that, that's what's hinted at, intended. In those days, there was no king in Israel. And in those days, the tribe of the Danites was seeking for itself a territory to live in. For until then, no territory among the tribes of Israel had been allotted to them. Pause. That's actually not true. The Danites had been given land to the east of the Jordan in Canaan. That was where they wanted to stay when it was first parceled out. However, they were a smaller tribe, a weak tribe, and they lost it. They lost it. They were one of the tribes who did not completely get rid of the people in the land, allowed Canaanites to live in them. And so they were one of the first ones that had that beginning of the failure of religiousness and being swept away and false idols and stuff. But they also lost their land. They also lost their land. So they had no place to call their own. So the Danites sent 5 valiant men from the whole number of their clan, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to explore it. And they said to them, "Go explore the land." When they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, they stayed there. While they were at Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they went over and asked him, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What is your business here?" He said to them, "Micah did such and such for me, and he hired me, and I have become his priest." Then they said to him, "Inquire of God, that we may know whether the mission we are undertaking will succeed." The priest replied, "Go in peace. The mission you are on is under the eye of Yahweh." Pause. We're going to pause there. So there are a few elements to what would be called a holy war in Scripture. There are several elements to what would be called a holy war in Scripture. One is to seek an oracle from God. 2 is that you're weak and you're going up against a very powerful aggressor. And number 3 is you don't live in that place after you win, after you destroy them. Those are the 3 common elements to holy wars. We're going to see here that this looks like the Danites are preparing for a holy war and are going to have a holy war, but everything's twisted. Everything's twisted. They sent spies, which would have an echo to the spies that were sent into Jericho and the spies that were sent into Canaan way back under Moses, although the people didn't believe those spies. But remember, the spies were sent by Joshua into Jericho, spied out things, saw how strong everybody was, saw what things were like. Rahab helped them, they escaped, they came back, and then they were able to continue with the Holy War and destroy Jericho. The walls come tumbling down. So here they send out spies. So it sounds like a similar case. We'll find out that it's not exactly, because their purposes are a little bit different. They're doing some things they're not supposed to be doing right off the bat, stopping here and plotting. You can hear it. You can tell something's going to come. So we have this Levite who says, "Yo, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm." Oh, good morning, Don. This is why I'm here. And I am a Levite, and I'm his priest. So they say, ask God if we're going to be successful, if this is a good thing, if the mission we are undertaking will succeed. Doesn't ask if we should do it or not, though, too. Notice, is this God's plan? Just says, will we succeed in it? And it's not a clear oracle. The guy just answers, yep, go in peace. We're not seeing a clear oracle. Even in what he does say, it's vague. It's vague and can be translated in a couple different ways. So he doesn't actually do what we would normally consider to be an oracle and talk with God and get a response and then convey the response to the people. But what he does say is even ambiguous. The NIV translates it as your journey has Yahweh's approval. The NRSV translates it differently, and yet perfectly legal and acceptable and perfectly good translation. The mission you are on is under the eye of Yahweh. It's kind of vague, really. What does that mean? So it could mean that God is okay with it, but it could also mean that God is watching. So be careful, kind of thing. But either way, there's an intentional ambiguity, perhaps. Either way, it's not a clear oracle that God actually said this to the Levite. So this is the first part of a holy war, and already we see it's twisted. Continuing, the 5 men went on, and when they came to Laish, they observed the people who were there living securely, after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and unsuspecting, lacking nothing on earth and possessing wealth. Furthermore, they were far from the Sidonians, had had no dealings with Aram. When they came to their kinsfolk at Zorah and Eshtaol, they said to them, "What do you report?" They said, "Come, let us go up against him, for we have seen the land, and it is very good. Will you do nothing? Do not be slow to go, but enter in and possess the land. When you go, you will come to an unsuspecting people. The land is broad. God has indeed given it into your hands, a place where there is no lack of anything on earth." Pause. The second aspect of a holy war is a weak group, Israel, going up against a much stronger group, oppressor, people who are well established and stuff like that. Here, it's the exact opposite. We've got the Danites, small tribe, yes, but armed for war, going into a place where people are unsuspecting. They even mention that. That's part of the report from the spies. They are unsuspecting. They're just there. And it's very specific by the author that they're too far from anybody to get any help. So, second aspect of a holy war, twisted, reversed, completely reversed. 600 men of the Danite clan, armed with weapons of war, set out from Zorah and Eshtaol and went up and encamped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah, On this account, that place is called Mahanadan to this day. It is west of Kiriath Jearim. From there they passed on to the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. Then the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land, that is, Laish, said to their comrades, "Do you know that in these buildings there are an ephod, teraphim, and an idol of cast metal? Now therefore, consider what you will do." Pause. See, they were plotting. They stopped there. That they were given a place to stay when they were just spying and given information, but we can now see that they were plotting the whole time. These people have something, we want it. So they turned in that direction and came to the house of the young Levite at the home of Micah and greeted him. While the 600 men of the Danites, armed with their weapons of war, stood by the entrance of the gate, the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land proceeded to enter and take the idol of cast metal, the ephod, and the teraphim. The priest was standing by the entrance of the gate with the 600 men armed with weapons of war. When the men went into Micah's house and took the idol of cast metal, the ephod, and the teraphim, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" They said to him, "Keep quiet. Put your hand over your mouth and come with us and be to us a father and a priest. It is better for you to be priest to the house. Is it better for you to be priest to the house of one person or to be priest to a tribe and clan in Israel?" Then the priest accepted their offer. He took the ephod and seraphim and the idol and went along with the people. Pause. So the spies, the Danites, they plotted, they were taking stuff that from Israel, from people of Israel, from the people of Israel, from a different clan, different tribe, but from the people of Israel. And this Levite, he's willing to go just about anywhere. This situation looks like it might be better for me. Yeah, you're right. Why should I stay here with one house when I can be priest to this whole tribe? It'll be much better for me there. He's willing to sell his soul for just about anything, and his job as priest. Continuing. So they resumed their journey, putting the little ones, the livestock, and the goods in front of them. When they were some distance from the home of Micah, the men who were in the houses near Micah's house were called out, and they overtook the Danites. They shouted to the Danites, who turned around and said to Micah, "What is the matter that you come with such a company?" He replied, "You take my gods that I made and the priest and go away, and what have I left? How then can you ask me, what is the matter?" And the Danites said to him, "You had better not let your voice be heard among us, or else hot-tempered fellows will attack you, and you will lose your life and the lives of your household." Then the Danites went their way. When Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his home. And notice what he's concerned. He's concerned about his gods that he made. So we're seeing here all of this social or this religious chaos and how far things have fallen. Okay, wrapping up, starting with verse 27. We'll read the last part of the story. The Danites, having taken what Micah had made, and the priest who belonged to him, came to Laish, to a people quiet and unsuspecting, put them to the sword, and burned down the city. There was no deliverer, which is interesting because that's what so many times was used before for people lifting up Israel, protecting them from the foreign invaders. In this case, it's foreigners wishing they had a deliverer to rescue them from Israel. So we're seeing this reversal again. There was no deliverer because it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with Aram. It was in the valley that belonged to Beth Rehob. They rebuilt the city and lived in it. They named the city Dan, after their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel. But the name of the city was formerly Laish. Then the Danites set up the idol for themselves. Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, also could be son of Manasseh, which might make more sense. And his sons were priests to the tribe of the Danites until the time the land went into captivity. So they maintained as their own Micah's idol that he had made, as long as the house of God was at Shiloh. End of chapter 18. So this last part, we're told again, it is iterated that the people were quiet and unsuspecting, and that they had no help. The Danites went in and killed everybody, burned down the city. Now, in a holy war, they're supposed to burn down the city or destroy it, and in some cases sow salt so that nothing can grow there again and leave it completely desolate. They don't. They rebuild it and live there, and name it after their father, their ancestor, and set up a new priesthood, worshiping this cast idol and using these things that they stole from Micah. And it's specific that they did this as long as the house of God was at Shiloh, because Shiloh is where the tabernacle was, where that was supposed to be where you were supposed to go to worship and stuff like that, pre-temple time. So we see how far Israel has fallen. Religiously, faithfully, it seemed to have no concern for the covenant with God. And next, we're going to see how far they've fallen socially, which also impacts their covenant with God and shows their total disregard for God's covenant. We're going to see that, between these two stories in particular, between this section and 19 through 21, we're going to see Israel breaking pretty much 10 out of 10 as far as commandments go, and then some. For thousands of years, history keeps repeating this pattern. This is true, Marilyn. This is definitely true. All right, my friends, I do pray that this has been beneficial to you, that you've learned something or relearned something, that God has spoken to you in some way this morning. Just as a reminder, come tomorrow expecting it to be a long one, because I might do 19, 20, 21 all together. That way, if you come ready for that one and it's only a short one, you'll might think that you'll be blessed rather than cursed. That way we'll be done with Judges too. And I think next we're going to move to the New Testament, and we're going to take a look at John. We're going to go through John. Yes, that'll be the fourth gospel that we've done. We'll see how different John is from Matthew, Mark, and Luke in a variety of ways. Matthew, Mark, Luke are referred to as the synoptic gospels. It's kind of a teaser because we'll be talking about this again. And John is not. John is different. John almost wasn't part of the canon. They would only agree to put John in if Matthew, Mark, and Luke all got in there as well. Anyway, so as you go about your days, not just today, but every day, keep those eyes and ears. Don't be like Samson. Keep those eyes and ears, physical and spiritual, open to what our living, loving, active God is doing in your life and the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say, "Thank you, Papa," and then tell somebody about it. Until we meet again, my friends, be blessed. Be blessed. Bye.